Hello and welcome to This is 65. My name is Erin Ackenheil and this is brought to you by Blackpoint Insurance. At Blackpoint Insurance, we help Medicare beneficiaries learn about the A, B, C's, and D's of Medicare, and we help agents and brokers nationwide learn to launch, grow, and retain their businesses. Through this process, we meet some very amazing and dynamic people. People who are owning their own businesses, volunteering in the community, side hustlers, entrepreneurs, you name it, we're meeting them along this journey. And what I'm invested in is helping agents, brokers, entrepreneurs grow and retain their businesses. And so I like to bring these guests and their stories. They have great personal examples of what they've been able to do and achieve to my audience. Today's guest is Kathleen Schultz. She owns her own business. She is in marketing and helps with everything marketing across the board. In talking with Kathleen, I've learned that a lot of businesses are really entrenched in getting to the day-to-day, especially small businesses, getting them launched and executing on day-to-day tactical issues. But it's really important for businesses of all sizes to take a step back and spend some time on strategic planning, understanding their competitive position and how to grow their business. And Kathleen is an expert in this area. And I am so excited beyond words to finally have her on the show. I'd like to welcome everybody. Welcome, Kathleen Schultz. Welcome, Kathleen.
Hi, Erin. It's nice to see you. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you very much. And I'm going to enjoy sharing my views and thoughts on prospecting and strategic planning and SWOTs. With your guests.
That's fantastic. And I see that people are watching us live right now, Kathleen. So I'm going to invite them to like this, give us a love, give us a hello. If you have a question while we're on, Kathleen, you can ask it live and I'll be able to see those comments. So be sure to do that. So I'm really excited, Kathleen. We've been trying to get this scheduled for some time, and I'm really stoked to have you on and to share your story with the team. So Kathleen Schultz, marketing, you have been in business on your own for some time. Can you tell us just a little bit about your background and what put you in the position of running your own business, a little bit about your story?
Sure, absolutely. I actually started out thinking I wanted to be a nurse. When I was in high school, I was a candy striper, which just means somebody that has a uniform on and helps patients. And I really liked that a lot. So when I graduated from high school, I went to nursing school and quickly discovered that was not my calling. Blood, all that stuff, I couldn't stand it. It would give me the shakes. So I got out of that.
I helping people until it got to a little bit of the gross part. You know what
That's
I mean?
right.
Like, that's good.
Yeah. No good. So I ended up taking up a position in a department store in New York. I lived on Long Island and then moved to New York. So I did that for a little while. And then I joined a very large multi-million-dollar catalog company, direct mail, as an inventory manager. And so that's where I really started my career. Then I was an assistant buyer, a catalog manager. We produced, I think, about 22 or 23 catalogs. And so I was a VP responsible for 7 different catalogs.
Wow.
2 of which I actually started. I started a plus-size women's catalog, which was pretty new at that time. So then I actually was recruited by iMagnin out here in California. And so
that's how you made your way here.
That's how I made my way to San Francisco. And I was brought in as head of merchandising for their catalog, and then became a VP for the mail order division. When they closed, is when I started my own consulting business.
Right.
So that's
and how long ago was that? How long have you been on your own?
About 20 years.
So just 20 years, right? So.
Yeah. And I've had a very diverse client base, various categories such as clothing and home furnishings and gifts and men's and food and apparel. So I have a broad breadth of product assortments. I don't focus on B2B businesses. It's really B2C.
Right.
Or this was D2C when in the Cadillac business. And I'm very good at team building and using both right brain, left brain, the creative side and then the analytical side to help clients achieve their goals.
Right. That's so good. And I feel like most of my audience, a lot of entrepreneurs out there, there's health insurance agents, there's real estate agents, there's people who are really working in that business to consumer, that B2C space. So your expertise is so desired and needed here. So one of the questions that I was thinking of when you were talking is, why is planning? I think a lot of times when we're running our own businesses, we're very action oriented, trying to get things done, trying to get that next sale, that opportunity. But why is taking a step back and planning really important for all businesses of all sizes? And what are the elements of a good plan? How does that work?
Those are great questions. Great questions. So let me just get my senses around me here.
You got
it. Initially, I was consulting in merchandising for direct-to-consumer businesses, and quickly I found out that the real issue was not that was not product they were selling, but many of them had no direction. They had no idea what to do. They had no idea how to grow. They all wanted to be successful, but were caught up in the day-to-day minutia.
Right.
And that was more evident in small businesses than large businesses. So there's a big quote that I've always used when I do presentations, and it says, over 2,500 years ago, one of the greatest thinkers in warfare, Sun Tzu, said, if you know your enemies and know yourself, you can win 100 battles without a loss. And so I use that terminology a lot when I'm talking to people about planning and strategic and SWOTs and all of those kinds of elements in my business.
Right. So it sounds like planning is really important, because if you take the time to take a step back and do it, that's going to help you be more successful with your growth and, really set the course of what you need to do. So
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So,
exactly.
Tell me a little bit, when we think of tactical issues versus strategic planning, what's really the difference in those? Like, how would you define a tactical issue versus a strategic planning process?
So tactical are those things that need to be done to get, and here I'm using the product, to get the product out the door, whether it's having enough staff to do the work. Think about Amazon warehouse. These are primarily day-to-day issues that need to be taken care of to keep on business going. A strategic issue is one that will be the roadmap that a company uses to grow and prosper.
Right.
What market should I be in? Where and how should I advertise it to the marketplace?
Right.
What are my competitors? And these are strategic issues, and they cannot be neglected, or it will end up biting the company in the what. So what some of the other terminology I often use is, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and if you can't manage it, you can't improve it.
Right.
So it's all that's a very tactical and strategically a way to approach businesses.
Well, and when I think of an example, like when I think about the Medicare space, I, for instance, am helping some agents launch in a new area. So the types of things we're thinking about before we get going, obviously we want to sell right away, but who are the key carriers in that area? Who are the key broker competitors? What are they doing? Right. What's working? What can we do to maximize? Because you can spray and pray a lot of money and really lose out if you're not strategic and tactical and understand what response rates will be and so forth. So really, really key. Can you think of
Excellent.
an example of a business you've worked with and some of the kind of components that you looked at with them?
Well, the components are numerous components. I think that based on their product or their service would determine what to take a look at. Is it do they have more people? Or do they have more money? Are they lacking something that they don't have that you have?
Right.
Are they being uh, strategic in their thinking? Does something else fit in their marketplace that doesn't fit in your competition? So taking a look at your competition, like you said you're doing,
Right.
is great, because what's out there that you have, but what's not out there that you'd like to have.
Right.
And think
So what
about
I'm
that.
hearing is budget, personnel, holes in
Yep.
their marketing, different opportunities. So really looking at the whole picture, all these different components to figure out what your best course
Right.
of action is.
And advertising. How can you advertise it? I have a tagline that says it's all about the stuff.
Right.
Because if you don't have the right stuff, nothing else matters. And your
Right.
stuff can be clothing, or your stuff can be Medicare. It could be anything. But if you
Right.
don't have the right stuff, you're not going to have a successful
Right.
business.
And so it sounds like you help people identify those components
Exactly.
to really map a great plan. So good.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
one
Yeah.
of the things that you always like to say to me, Kathleen, you've told me many times, every business needs a SWOT, right?
Right.
So first of all, just for my audience purposes, can you define for us what is a SWOT? What does that stand for, and what is
Okay.
that?
Absolutely. So a SWOT, okay, is SWOT.
Okay.
A SWOT is shorthand for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those are the 4 key components that you're looking at. And strengths are what you do better than your competitor. It can be size, unique, products, services, staffing, financial resources. The list can be quite long in strengths. Your strengths are the foundation of what will make your company grow and prosper. If you have no or few strengths versus your competitors, you're in a rough spot.
Right. Exactly. So even just mapping that out, it shows, hey, am I
You
ready to
know,
roll? Am I
exactly.
need to increase some of these? What do I need to do to get a competitive edge?
Right, right. Your weaknesses are what your competitors do that you can't do. Another way to look at weaknesses is to think about what will cause your company to fail. No people, no money, no, no customers.
No money
And
would be a big one for people starting out, right?
that's right. It's
right.
especially right now. Right now. Yep.
Right.
And you'll note that strengths and weaknesses are internal, which is good and bad about your company.
Right.
So opportunities are things that you can do that your competitor can't do. So opportunities are those things that you can build on, especially outside your normal market. How can you use your company's products expertise to go after new markets?
Right.
And then threats. Threats are those things outside your control, mainly your competitors and regulations that can hurt a company no matter what the size is. But you have threats could turn into opportunities.
Right.
So you look at them.
Look at them from
Look
that
at them.
lens, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
So,
one of the things that I just think of when I think of opportunities, so a lot of the audience here, entrepreneurs, small businesses. So a lot of times what we're up against is bigger budgets, different kind of large businesses that can scale and do some of the things we want to do, but have more money around it. And so I think one of the opportunities as entrepreneurs that we have, whether we're real estate, health insurance, long-term care, whatever the business may be, we have an opportunity to be nimble and to be grassroots on the ground. So that's an example of something that we can control. Doesn't cost a lot of money, but takes a lot of hustle. right, to get into
Right.
these areas and opportunities. So just want to encourage everybody on the call to be thinking about, because we're nimble, because we're smaller, what are those different things we can do to create additional opportunities?
Right.
So I want to take a minute to remind everybody that we are live, streaming on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube right now. If you want to post a question, you can. Great opportunity to throw us a little love or like. Kathleen's doing an amazing job. So tell her how much we love her, and she's doing great here. So really appreciate it. And if you do want to ask a live question, this would be an opportunity to do so. So tell me a little bit about some of the discoveries you've had from SWOTs. Maybe give me a specific example of a type of company you've worked with, and just to help us understand some of the things that you were able to discover in doing this for a business, and what action plan you went in place to respond to that.
Oh, that's a good question. Because I've done it so many SWOTs. Before I answer that question, I think another point of interest that's critical is, and I've walked into situations like this before, where I strongly believe, and other people that do this that I do, but not as well as I do.
Of course not.
Of course not. No, of course not. Could never be. Is the understanding is you work with key individuals within the company, people that are decision makers, and the CEO, excuse me, should not be a facilitator of this function when you're sitting around in the room, because there's a lot of hidden nervousness about saying something that you might feel that the CEO doesn't like,
right,
or their opinion, or feels intimidated by that person. So it's really important to have a facilitator running that SWOT exercise.
right.
I think that's really important. And I had a recent experience where I was discussing with a client, and this happens to be a jewelry business, about their need for a SWOT and what was happening. And so we talked about that, and he said, "Oh no, you can't run that meeting. I have to run that meeting." And then I talked to him about it and why that's not the case. And he said, "Well, I'm putting my foot down. You're not running this meeting." So I didn't get the position as I was talking with them,
Right.
but that led the company to make drastic changes in the image that they were projecting to their current customer and their hopefully future customer. It was a completely different focus. It was much younger, much hipper, just like that. And so their business really started to tank because they were not addressing the current customer base.
Right. I think that's so critically important. And I know you work with businesses of all sizes, right? The ones that have a CEO and the one where I'm
Right.
the CEO, right, of my own business.
Right, me too.
Exactly. And so I just feel like it's really accessible. Like I'm making a T mentally, and I'm putting my SWOT.
OT.
I'm just jotting it in there and figuring it out and help mapping it out. And you bring up a really good point. So I feel like anyone can do that. And everybody on the call, I'm hearing people say, I'm going to create my SWOT today, right? So people are thinking about this, and they may not know all the actionable steps to take, but we should all be thinking about our business in these buckets. One of the things you touched on, go ahead, Kathleen.
Oh, no, go ahead. I can get.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things you touched on when we were just talking and going through the example is this whole identity of creating a brand for your business, a brand for your small or large, a personal brand. It's really important to know your audience, because if it's a young audience and you're not having a youthful kind of position in the marketplace, you're not going to attract that. And for us in my business, we're working with an older audience. So if I'm like super hip, that might attract some people, but the vast majority of my client base is not going to be attracted to that. So can you just touch a little bit more on personal brand and help people understand what that is and why it's so important?
Well, a personal brand is really, that's where it's all about the stuff.
Right.
The brand is the stuff. And, you need to maintain who you are and what you do. But in order to grow your business, you may need to just step out on times and try something. It's not this. You don't have to be so rigid that you say, "Oh no." We tried this once and it didn't work. Well, why don't you think it worked? I don't know. Maybe it was. I didn't. Maybe the colors were wrong, or maybe the price was too high. So I think that there's just a lot of thinking and strategy about when you're looking at. One of the things that a question that's often asked of me is how do you turn discoveries from the SWOT into actionable steps for the business growth?
Right.
And so it's a really good question. And a SWOT analysis is not complete if you don't have, how do I want to phrase this? If you don't have SMART planning. And within SMART planning, it's SMART, which is...
Everybody write this down, SWOT and SMART, and let's hear what these acronyms stand for.
And S, in this case, stands for strategic. This is how to get your SWOT actionable. Measurable, which is really key. Achievable, is it realistic that we can do this or try this? It must be relevant, and it must be time-based. So don't let it be hanging out there. Oh, we can do that tomorrow. We can do that next year. But all of those key SMART adjectives are appropriate in getting a SWOT together.
Yeah.
And supporting the strategic plan.
Right. So important. And
yeah.
I just want to reiterate for everybody who's listening in today, some of these components are very accessible to us. We can do it ourselves, mapping out SWOT, setting SMART goals where we can ensure that they're achievable. And Kathleen's given us a really nice roadmap for doing that. Now, I know where you come in, Kathleen, a lot of times, even if we're kind of mapping that out, maybe we don't have the right personnel to do that. Maybe we have that information, but we don't know how to turn it into actionable steps.
Right.
This is where you kind of come in. So can you describe how you work with businesses of all sizes to kind of help make these steps actionable?
Well, actually to, first meet what the key component individuals in the company, individually. And there really has to be, let me just take one thing that I just wanted to mention, and here. So that there has to be an understanding of the team of what the goal and objective is. And the goal and objective should be coming from the CEO. But how to get there, the CEO doesn't necessarily or shouldn't be in all those meetings, because it's going to be generally too disruptive.
Right.
So there should be no bias at all. Everything should be open and for conversation.
Right.
And I think that get under the rug. Get under the people. Well, we never talk about this, but we think this is a problem. So honesty, no bias, and not having the CEO involved in it from the onset. Certainly, from the CEO is going to be the person that would hire me, but the understanding of how I would conduct the business for him, he has to buy into, and challenge me about that,
Absolutely.
and make sure that.
Oh, go ahead. Make sure what?
And make sure that the um, business owners, meaning the people that are underneath the CEO, understand that it's a time to open up, and talked about in this room, will not go out of this room without knowing what's going to go out of the room.
Creating a safe space for
exactly
really good dialogue.
And no bias.
Super important. So, and I noticed that even with, obviously a lot of people are entrepreneurs, they're solo practitioners, but even if you have one or two teammates, just making sure that their voices are being heard and they're not intimidated and not sharing with you. I found that I've worked in management at all different levels and owning my own business, and people are not that forthcoming as much as you would think. And it really is important to do that. So
yeah, and sometimes there are people that are too forthcoming and want to dominate.
Right. I'm usually accused of being one of those myself, right? Always forthcoming. So,
that's a balancing act.
Well, right. And you don't want to be creating groupthink with one dominant person, that kind of thing. You want to get all the relevant voices coming to the table. So
exactly.
One last business question for you, Kathleen. So just in terms of entrepreneurs, small businesses, thinking of that audience, if there's 3 tips that you could give to have them have a profitable business, be more strategic, what would be your top 3 tips that you would give any small business listening?
Okay. Number 1, be realistic. And I wrote down here, if you're a $100,000 annual business and don't have a great financial staff, and you don't have a lot of money or staff, don't try to make it a $10 million business, because it's not going to happen.
Not overnight, right?
Not overnight. Not overnight. You won't succeed, and you're wasting your time going after customers.
Right.
Second one, know your weaknesses. I've talked about SWOT and the definition of weakness, whether it's a lack of expertise, finance, whatever. You need to face up to what's most likely preventing you to not succeed or not get to the level you want to be at. And then again, lastly, knowing without strategy, execution is aimless. Without execution, strategy is useless.
Right.
So you kind of have to think of all those words when you're talking. And sometimes I've been with such great individuals, employees, and managers of different divisions that are just, they just come out and are shining because they're having an opportunity to talk about it, rather than going into a meeting with a group of people and then coming out and go.
Right, exactly. Gossiping about it or whatever, which is not very helpful. So
exactly.
I heard it here. So number 1, be realistic, which takes us back to our SMART goals, setting a really specific goal, measurable, and all those different great action steps. The second thing I heard you saying, Kathleen, is know your weaknesses. So if customer service is a weakness and you're building your business and you need to hire someone to answer the phone or outsource that, then you should do that. If your weakness is marketing, you need to think about developing that plan. So just identifying what those issues are so you can put a SMART goal attached to that to help you grow. And then finally, we heard it a lot today, but be strategic, right? Really be setting that roadmap so you can get business. So great advice for everybody listening, Kathleen. You've been amazing. So just a little bit personal, I just wanted to ask you, so when you're not doing everything SWOT and helping people grow their businesses and marketing, what do you like to do? What's your downtime look like for you?
Oh, well, I don't like downtime. So
only the business. Right?
No, not only the business, but not only downtime. Let's see. A combination of things, of fun and giving. My husband and I volunteer at the Alameda Community Food Bank, which we love doing that. It's great. Really, really great. We're also members of a national organization called Mended Hearts. That's a support group for people that have had heart-related issues.
Wow, amazing.
And so we're with the Mended Hearts division in Oakland, the Oakland chapter. And I'm the treasurer for that. And as I said, it's a peer-to-peer support group.
Right.
Um,
So the Mended Hearts, is that that's a national organization? Ooh, that's an interesting one to get involved with. That sounds
Yes, it
wonderful.
is.
So little
Your
plug for
ears are perking up, huh?
a plug for Mended Hearts. That's a great organization. You know, I just want to reinforce, as entrepreneurs and business people, we have a great opportunity to volunteer in community. And Kathleen, you just sharing how much you're volunteering, that's amazing for our audience here. And it's a great way to make more business contacts from a selfish standpoint and to give back to do something wonderful. So Kathleen, one last question for you. I mean, you've been in business, you've had your own business for 20 years. If you could go back 20 years ago, just like most of my audience that are out starting their own businesses, what advice would you have for your 20 years ago self when starting your business?
Pick a career that you love. Now, certainly if you're a woman, there are a lot more opportunities open for women now than when I was coming up in the business world. And find a mentor that can guide you, someone that you can talk to, someone that you respect, someone that respects you, and can help you think things through and help you with challenges, perhaps.
Excellent advice, right? So the world is our oyster, right? Especially for women entrepreneurs, which is a lot of our audience out there, just knowing anything is possible. I think the advice, though, that I'm hearing is do what you love so it doesn't feel like hard work every day, right? And then get someone to help guide you along the way. We have that with my business, guiding other agents and brokers to grow their businesses, help them think about things and map out how they want to grow their business. And it's a big deal. I personally have worked with upline partners that have helped mentor me as well. And it's made a big difference in my output. I'm not having to make all the same mistakes because I can learn from some of theirs and hopefully make some new ones of my own along the way and do it. So I just really appreciate that advice, Kathleen. And I know my audience appreciates it as well. So Kathleen, as we wrap up here, I'm sure that there's some businesses, small and large, across the board of people watching that might be in need of a consult. So tell us a little bit about how they would get in touch with you to get some advice.
Oh, sure. Well, the easiest way, one thing you can look on my website if you'd like. It's Kathleen at Kathleen Schultz Marketing. But I would suggest strongly to give me a call at 949-689. You have that up already. Thank you.
I know, we got it up on the screen here.
3116, yeah.
Just in case Kathleen forgot what her phone number was, we put it on the screen for her. So I invite everybody in the audience, take a picture of this phone number, reach out to Kathleen at email, go check out her website. She's incredible. She's out there helping people grow their businesses. She's been an amazing guest. Kathleen, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you joining the show today. You've been fantastic.
Thank you. And I actually live in Emeryville, just in case if you know Emeryville, you know where that is, and Oakland, so right across the road.
Right. East Bay, local, Northern California. Right. Although Kathleen can help you wherever you are, because I know my audience goes nationwide. So send her a note. And if you're in the Bay Area, we can meet her for a coffee or meet her for lunch. So
that's right.
Kathleen, thanks so much for joining today. Fantastic guest. Talk with you soon.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.